Ba-da-ba.
Dad
You
would
guys are
want you to
such
choose-
Welcome to The Second Wall, a binge-free zone where we look at a series and discuss it in small movements. This time we are discussing the 2017 series Your Lie in April. It can be found on most podcast and social media platforms, a full list of which can be found at beardyandthebeast.com. Please watch episodes 10 through 12 and join Drew and I in the lobby to discuss the show afterwards. Oh,
Speaking of things that are sad,
yeah.
so right off the bat, episodes 10 through 12, not much happens, but so much happens.
Mhm.
It's like this weird contradiction where like the amount of events that occurred are minimal, but the impact of the events are just far-reaching or referencing the previous threads that had already been interacted with.
Yes.
So it was kind of like this weird feeling overall where I was like, they felt discordant as a trio of episodes, while still being so incredibly intertwined.
Well, I think there's a reason kind of for that like discordant part that you're saying, because as you know, it always means something when the opening changes.
Yes. Or when the ending changes.
Or when the ending changes. Because we're at episode 11 is the halfway point of the series. So I think there could just be a little bit of an aspect of the story is kind of doing its bit of change. So now that the tournament arc is done, we can remind everyone what happened and kind of go from there and expand again.
Yeah, I guess maybe that makes a lot of sense, like transitioning from the first half of the story to the second half of the story.
Yeah.
And of course, like the decent writing of it, keeping everything nice and tight and together.
Yeah.
Unlike Edgerunners, where halfway through it just like fell apart.
Oh, I'm so glad you agree with that.
No, seriously, like to take a break from Your Lie in April, even though we just started talking about it. Just a random time skip, and then just like all it did was feel rushed, and then there was nothing really that like summed up anything in the first half of the series. Like Edgerunners or whatever was just had so much promise.
Well, let's just say, I mean, I know we both have this opinion on a lot of cyberpunk genre stuff, right? We've had this conversation about some things that shall not be mentioned, and Ghost in the Shell, where there's just so much talking.
Just so much talking. Specifically the original movie. The rest is actually quite good.
Yeah. But we're not talking about cyberpunk or cyberpunk related media.
No, the reason why we've come together for this cast is one of the greatest shonen animes of all time.
Right? So yeah, I agree with you. Like I found that like when I was kind of watching and taking my notes, there was a lot of, I think there's a lot of things that I've seen, but you're right, not much happens. But again, it's still does very well with having you on that emotional roller coaster, of which we've seen with the series. We're seeing again a bunch of reoccurring themes throughout these episodes. Just as you said, a lot of touching on points that we've had built up. Again, like right at the beginning of episode 10, they're talking about the like the adversity and just like to push forward regardless of the fears or the challenges around it, which has been a pretty big aspect for it. I think it was nice to see episode 10 starting with Watery kind of opening up about, how losing this soccer match actually was kind of affecting him a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, we didn't get that before. And I think it's nice to see his character being explored that little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously not as much as others, but
Something more than like sage moments that are periodically poking through hound dog Watery.
yeah. But there is more there. There's a person there. Not just the sage. And I think there's something that Kousei had said in that same conversation about just trying anyway, even though he knew how things could turn out. So it's just a reiteration of the lessons that he's been kind of learning from Kaori
Mm-hmm.
throughout. And then, of course, I'm actually going on stage and playing.
Well, even then, with like the recurring themes, just to enhance that point. Well, we also saw it with Watery and why do I keep Tsubaki?
Lucky.
Because there was a very, very much a real chance of failure for them, but they still tried, and they're still living with the results, right?
Yep.
And doing the best that they can. So having a good example being set for them, being a good example, or an expression of what Kaori was kind of expressing through her teachings to Kousei.
Yeah. And well written. Man, my writing is terrible. Unlike this show. I mean, a lot of this was obviously Kousei just trying to play. I liked how the crowd and such was reacting to his performance. And I think, because I know one thing you mentioned was like you weren't sold on how his drowned playing was. Personally, I think that I think it was Ime who said it. Where it sounded like someone writhing in agony. So they, even though it doesn't quite with the visuals, trying to show what it's representing more.
Well, that's what something that 10 did so shockingly well. So a lot of it was the imagery is being projected through the music, right? And the different stages of it. We're going like we have representations of my favorite one was Agawa when she was like, I swear for a moment I even saw a mischievous little child poking out. We had other people describing like exact things that were going on with Kousei without knowing the details, such as sound of someone writhing in agony or a child sobbing while pounding on the keys.
Yeah.
Which in the very moment that they were experiencing were accurate descriptions of his emotional state, especially when it came to what he was reliving, especially with the interactions with his mother. So I thought that was like very powerful in the way that they were able to coalesce the imagery which they had been building up for what, like 5 episodes now for Kousei anyways.
Yeah.
going into this dark place, and then finally when he starts hitting it, and he uses his piano no jitsu. um and he starts playing for Kaori, and he discovered the image in his mind that he wanted was just that spring afternoon or spring morning with her asleep against the wall there.
Yeah.
And him just playing, and like everybody's in there. It's like this is directed towards someone. This is somebody in love and wanting that other person to know.
Yeah.
Even if we won't admit it.
Which again is another big thing that's been through the show, especially the last several episodes, like who or what are you playing for? And finding that. And him again, does it reach her? Let it ring, will it reach them? We had that multiple of our characters say that as they were playing. And cutting to it reaching Kaori. Very clearly reaching Kaori. To the point that it's like hard to ignore Tsubaki's reaction to seeing Kaori's tears. I mean, it's just like,
well, I mean, it was so clear that even someone who is not adept in piano and music can quite clearly see that this was for Kaori.
Yeah. Or for someone. Yeah. Us as audience, it's clearly for her. But I mean, even in the next episode, air quote, calls him out on it. It's like, so which one is it?
Well, that's what made the like grumpy judge, like what he said, so impactful, because it really summed up what happened on stage for Kousei when he straight up said, "This is not a place for you to find yourself."
Yeah.
Because he could quite clearly see that's what was happening to Kousei. This brash old man is just like, this kid's having a personal experience and finding himself right now. This is a music observatory, and we're doing recitals right now. It's a competition. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah. I like. Yeah, I like that he didn't care. It's like, again, just taking Kaori's advice. Again, Kaori is a grounding force for him. Which is really weird, like when you think of the normal tropes of who the grounding characters are. I think we talked about that before. But it's also an art piece where, grounding is a little different. Grounding is finding a way to make someone soar.
Well,
in the art world.
I think a good way to put it to any aspect is grounding is finding that force of what someone truly needs.
Yeah.
To move on or succeed or be themselves. I like as an all-encompassing term.
Yeah.
I think your terminology is very accurate.
I'm
just putting a more broader sense to it.
Yeah. I really liked how his rivals were reacting to the performance as well. Obviously, a bit confused because this isn't who they were expecting to hear from a couple years ago, but like both of them trying to keep him going as much as they could from the audience.
Well, I found that one of the things that they kind of went through is because part of their motivation was wrapped up in Kousei, they were put in a position where they were confronting themselves through Kousei's ongoing failure during the middle part of his piece.
Yeah.
especially Aiza, when he was like, who is this person? Like, is this the person I've been looking up to this entire time? Like, his anger at that point was very understandable.
Mhm.
And, I mean, of course, in the end, our lovable shonen hero, of course, will change his mind. We didn't get to see much of that with Igawa, but when it was coming to the climax of the piece, when she was quite clearly like, well, in her head anyways, calling out like, come home, Kousei, like come to back to where you belong.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I think this kind of goes back to the conversations we were having in their individual episodes before. It's their motivations. Episode 11 kind of expands on that a bit for Takashi. Like, one of their motivations was rival. I am doing everything I can to beat this person. Right? Oh God, what happened? This isn't how. Like, whereas, I think Emi Igawa has. I think she loves him. Like, what type of love? Beside the point, but
it's probably honestly, it's probably something close to like vampiric love, as we've expressed.
Yeah.
In like Interview with the Vampire, and its incredibly well made sequel, Queen of the Damned.
It's just a terrible sequel. There's definitely that of it. So her focus isn't going to be that same type of anchor. It is going to be those expressions of, this is an angry kid hitting the keyboard, tying to that emotional beats that's being sent there. And all of those emotional beats, I think, were handled very well visually as well. Like, I loved, I don't know, just the scene of like the Sakura filling the darkness as he's in his third act of the of the song, was just absolutely beautiful. And seeing some color come to his mother's face.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up had you not mentioned it. And the interesting thing, because when it did a shot of the crowd and it zoomed in, it brought in some color to her face, and her smile looked less wicked. But then it did become a little disconcerting, because the smile then kind of went a little bit wicked while still maintaining some of that color. So, I mean, foreshadowing, there's still an issue there that he needs to confront. But this is a visual signal for the audience to know that he's developing, he's moving on. And he's beginning to confront these problems that he's honestly, at this point, been refusing to confront simply by just trying to forget his mom.
Yeah. Which, I think we're probably going to be moving into exploring that here in a second. I don't know if I have too much more on episode 10 offhand. Like, again, there was a lot that happened, but not much that happened. So,
yeah. Small things with great impacts.
Yes. So, yes, I'm ready to move to the next episode then.
So, of course, this is where they introduce Seto. Apparently top pianist in Japan. Good friends of Kousei's mother. If I just throw out a few statements here. When we talk about Seto, we might as well talk about her in all her scenes in 11 and 12.
Yeah.
Just because it'll be more cohesive.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it's quite clear that she knew about the abuse that was being put on to Kousei, and she feels guilty that she couldn't do anything about it.
I agree.
But it's also quite clear to me that she has a maternal instinct towards him,
Mm,
and would be a very good mentor, even maternal stand-in,
yes.
especially when that's something that he needs right now.
Yeah. So it's very clear, like, I mean, obviously not really, but she's a figurative aunt.
Mm-hmm.
Aunt to him. Like, clearly, she was there, you know, right from when he was a little baby.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where, um, and all the way up to, I'm pretty sure, I mean, she was there when his mom hit him in the music hall.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she's clearly been around it. I think there's multiple reasons for that guilt around it, which is, I kind of want to. I'm going to throw in a theories. Like, I don't think this was ever said, and if it was, sorry.
Yeah.
It's she. Like, I think that guilt is why she hasn't been around the last couple of years. This is the first time she's seen it in a while too, right? So she does say that, but I think there's guilt in multiple ways because she was the one who said, "Oh yeah, no, this kid should be a pianist." When his mom was like, "No, because I know what that life's like."
I like what you're saying here. I get what you're putting down.
Right? So I think there's some guilt around that as well. Uh, but she also, this is, she's also recontextualizing some of the things that's happening with Kousei,
Mm-hmm.
this relationship with mom, and she's putting words to him that we've been saying, that we've been seeing in his character already.
It's almost like a sage-like audience proxy.
Yeah, because she goes and talks about how important it was that he did stand up in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
much in the same way we did. And again, there's some recontextualization that's there's like, this was a moment that, just in no way condoning what his mom did.
Mm-hmm.
And even she doesn't. She's like, this was a moment that made her proud, though. Like, your reaction to her made her proud. And again, it cut to that little bit more color in her face and that not so sinister smile at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, because important to be able to see, kids be able to stand up for themselves too. So,
Little did his mom know that if you ever need Kousei to do anything, all you have to do is physically beat him. He'll
yep.
do whatever you want him to.
Are you sure his mom didn't know?
Well, I mean, this even comes down to like that scene, like the amount of emotional support that he's getting from Seto right now is something that he needs, especially because it's not coming from within his circle. It is coming more from more experience. It is coming with more objective reasoning.
Yeah.
So like it was so weird when they were talking about the piece that he and Kaori were going to play,
Mhm.
and like it reeks of my mother, so forth, so forth. They get into that conversation, and that's when they talk about like the whole like what mother wouldn't be proud.
Mhm.
But the statement he said, "Is it all right for me to play the piano?"
Yeah.
Like it seemed out of place for the conversation, but not out of place for the character, and the response was correct.
Mhm.
It's just it was just an example of that kind of like emotional support that he needs that he hasn't been able to get because all his friends tiptoe around him, right?
Ish, yeah. Yeah, they
Well,
find other ways to do it.
yeah.
But, well, I mean, I guess because Kaori's really an outsider in that regard, so she's the one who's not doing the tiptoeing.
Yeah.
Uh, with that being said, I mean, from a narrative standpoint as well, obviously, I think there's other reasons why Seto wasn't there.
Hmm.
But from a narrative standpoint, I think if she had been there prior to this, she would have been ignored.
True. That
Right?
makes sense to me.
It's one of those things no one can help you until you're ready to be helped.
Facts.
It's
Well, it's, I mean, emotionally, especially on Kousei's perspective, you're 100% right. From a story construction perspective for this story, even more right. Like, it wouldn't make sense to have this adult figure around up until this point. And it's interesting to have, this wise elder to come by, start talking about like how he has the skills. He just needs to like find it within himself, essentially to use soul projection, or is it inner eye, to enhance his piano no jitsu.
well, yeah, that was one thing that was well, okay, so even though it sounds weird, but I mean, it is a shonen, so let's start with that. I liked the recontextualization that Seto did with that about using the inner eye.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, you were such a metronome that you not being able to hear yourself is becoming a benefit because now you have to let the emotion speak. Right? So and that being said, it's like that's where I go with a lot of the imagery that we had beforehand, again, that you had been finding odd, works better because now it's like, okay, no, this is his emotional state. His emotional state is he's drowning, which comes out in his piano being an angry child, which he is.
Well, I mean, he's just in middle school or junior high or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So like, still a child.
Yeah.
Was he like grade 8 or grade 9 right now?
Yeah, something like that. I think it's like 14, I think they said.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, and then we've seen it twice now where he starts playing for Kaori, and that emotion starts coming through, and we start seeing the shine on the shine on the piano.
Oh, the sparkle.
The sparkle, yeah. Right, we see the sparkle. We see the color come in, even though the audience didn't know how to react to him. The people that mattered did know how to react. And it's because he's able to tap into that emotion. So, much like Daredevil, he's blind, but he can hear better. He can't hear, but he can feel better. Or emote better.
Wait, he can feel better? He can emo better. Hope so much that your kiss might kill me. That's why don't kiss me. So I die happy.
Yeah.
Anyways, I am another reason why Seto might not have been around is her child, right? Her child's what, 2 or 3?
Yeah.
So seems to me that there is some corresponding, like in that time gap there, corresponding responsibilities that would take her away from her pseudo child for her actual child.
Yeah.
But they did seem to link it in such a way that Seto was uncomfortable with children until she essentially had one thrust at her by her friend. No, you're holding my child now.
Yeah.
Just support its head.
Yeah.
Remember, it bounces.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Remember, Ashley, they bounce.
Anyways.
But it's she clearly cares for him. I'm just going to repeat what you're saying because I am now thinking of Ashley's child bouncing.
One last thing I wanted to mention about Kousei and Seto. One thing that I really liked was when Kousei asked Seto, please teach me how to play the piano. Because it's quite clear that he knows how to play the piano mechanically.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know how to feel the piano. He doesn't know how to express himself with the piano. So it's still a very pointed question, like, there's several ways to play a piano, and that's one of the things they've covered multiple times in this show. And he's directly asking the best pianist in Japan to teach him.
Yeah. I think it's important to note that his mother was also considered one of the best pianists in Japan. His original. So
pretty much they kind of outlined it as if his mom was number 2 and Seto was number 1, is like what they've implied. But like, not sure, just loosely.
I think I got the impression that Seto may have been the inspiration. It was his mom, but it was his mom that was teaching. And I think just going back to him asking about being taught by her, and seeing it's been expressed throughout that his mother was very mechanical. So it was that precision, which is what he has. I mean, we obviously haven't heard Seto play, but from the conversations we've had, she's able to tap into that emotion more. She's like Kaori, but not a 14-year-old manic pixie dream girl.
Remember, Devin, you're not a 14-year-old manic pixie dream girl.
No, I'm a 17-year-old girl. We've covered this.
I did love how Seto, like, immediately when talking to Kousei was, you mentioned this earlier, was like, so which one is it for? The one with the short hair or the blonde hair or whatever?
Yeah.
He's like, it's not like that. I'm an awkward teen. Shut up.
Yeah, I liked how she just straight up called him out on it. I think it's nice too that the other thing is, like, just again, the being able to jump into the familiarity. With him, it's like, nope, I told you. You called me by my first name. We've known each other long enough. And just give me a hug, damn it.
Well, the response to the hug is definitely very familiar. Just like, you smell like cigarettes.
Yeah. And just that familiarity with it. So, yeah, I think it covers most of that. Most of that with her. Yeah, it covers what I did.
The only other major beats from 11 and 12 are the the gala performance, Kousei and Kaori, which we at least partially kind of touched on while talking about Seto, like why Kousei was so reluctant to want to play that piece, because essentially his mother played it all the time, even used it as a lullaby.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, it was clear in the scene that they did show no scene of waste. Here we go. We should almost start a podcast called No Scene of Waste.
I like it.
And one of the reasons why she chose that piece is because it appeared that he loved it so much, or cared for it, or about it.
Yeah.
And it's likely because she saw, you know, the worn bindings on the score, or the notation in the ledgers or whatever. Which originally would make a lot of sense when you take it out of the context that it was directly related to his mom.
Yeah.
So Harry choosing that place makes a lot of sense. Just there was missing information there.
Yeah. Yes and no. The piece is important to him. You could see it in the note in there. And there's something I kind of noticed, but I think I kind of wrote it off as, you know, animation tricks that I know we talked about in some of the films that we've watched, where it's like there was a clear difference. So it could have been, this might have been pulled out a bit more even after the room had become disheveled. So,
or it could have been put back with more care, or
yeah. And there's something in the way that it was done there. So obviously, she read that right, and she, I guess, the three women in Kousei's life now, they're all kind of doing that same thing. This is one thing I missed with Kiriko. Even she's saying is like, no, you need to be able to play to move on, which echoes Tsubaki saying, I don't care if you give up on the piano, but you need to do it for yourself.
You do it on your own terms.
Do it on your own terms. I mean, Kaori and Emmy are both like, you need to get back in there because there's more of that there. So there's more to this story as you as a pianist, regardless of stop or not.
Wait, does this mean that Kousei actually has 3 mother proxies and he's gonna end up with a gawa? I mean, the reluctant allies now. She's pretty much part of the coterie.
It's true.
That's how shonens work. Sorry, I keep derailing us.
That's fine. They. I think Kaori understands that importance of the piece, and again, it's Kaori's shown herself to be the type that she's straight up said, it's like, yeah, sure, it might be painful, might be shame, but doesn't mean you don't do it. Like, she kind of kicked that up in him again. So I think despite the piece being a painful piece for him, he's still, you know, pushing through it.
Well,
I don't think he. Go ahead.
So story-wise, okay, so she knows it's important. We've established the many ways that she could figure out, even by just like the way that the book was held on the shelf, that it could have been determined to have been just some importance. All the little things there, but she doesn't know the type of importance. Is it happiness? Is it sadness? Is there anger there, etc., right?
Mhm.
We do know this is one thing that's like very convenient to the story, because a lot of what Kaori is doing is making Kousei confront himself, and to do that he has to confront his feelings towards his mother.
Yeah.
So it just so happens to be coincidentally the most impactful piece that it could have been to do so.
Yeah.
It's very convenient for the story. I don't hate it. And I'll allow it. But because she doesn't know the level of importance, it's a very convenient fact for the story.
So I'm going to disagree with you for two reasons about it just being a convenience. One, which you've already covered, they set it up. There was clear reason why she would pick that piece.
Mm.
And for the emotional having to, deal with mother and such like that, wouldn't factor into Kaori's decisions at all. She's not going to care if it's a piece that's making you angry or happy or sad. She's caring that it's a piece that makes you feel.
Okay, I'll accept that pointer. I still think it's a convenience, but that is a very logical statement, which I will accept.
I think we've had this discussion before. It's a convenience when it, you happened to turn the street and run into the person.
Yeah,
is a plot convenience.
You mean like when Tsubaki was walking down the road and then Kousei just so happened to be walking towards her at the same time?
Yeah. That's more convenience, right? But him running into Kaori probably wasn't convenience because she was waiting for him.
What, to take those pervert shots? Probably.
Yes. Yep.
Oh. My question is, why did she take off her tights too?
It was hot out.
Okay. Anyway.
I don't think they were tights. I think they were leggings.
Okay.
They just called them tights. Because there's a bit of a difference.
I only know the difference between skirts and dresses. I don't know the difference between tights and leggings. All right, so
you got to get in touch with your 17-year-old girl, Drew.
No, you get put on a list for that. Please edit that out. Very warm today.
What is this, an Ashley podcast?
So I think I'd be really happy to see how this would turn out, this piece. I mean, especially with how hard they've been working on it. Especially now that they're more in tune as violinist and a accompaniment.
Oh, that reminds me of something that I forgot to mention from episode 10. Just to interrupt you, and I'll let you finish.
Thanks, yay.
You're welcome. How accomplished they are as an accompanist was another thing that actually shone through in Kousei's performance. They actually threw in a violin accompanist.
Oh, I was going to mention that as well.
Yeah.
Like it was almost even as if he was playing it to be an accompanist piece.
Yeah.
Because I noticed the strings right away, but then I went, "Oh, that's interesting. They put in strings," and then it took me a moment. I'm like, "Oh, I get it. I really like that."
So, now that insanely important detail was actually mentioned, I'm gonna let you finish.
Wait, does that mean I'm Taylor Swift?
Yes, you are now Tay-Tay.
Tay-Tay. I knew you were trouble when you walked in. Lion face? Lemon face? Ooh. Anyways, I'd be really stoked to hear this piece. I like how there wasn't too much showboating in the practice of it. Aside for the fact that like they're just trying to like get on each other's levels, but they already understand what it can be and what they can do together. They understand each other's music and emotions. So I'd really like to see how this piece turns out. Unfortunately, unless it's a false cliffhanger, probably not gonna. So, I know you can neither confirm nor deny.
Neither confirm nor deny.
But I think
either way, you know it's going to be insanely important to Kousei.
Yes.
Whichever way it goes.
Because the options are she's super late for any number of reasons, and then they play, and then they have a powerful moment together, or she collapsed again in a medical relevant issue. The only thing I hope is that he respectfully indicates that Kaori is not there, or unable to show, and then walks off the stage. I don't want him to try to play, because this whole episode is about them. It's not about him.
So, without confirming or denying anything, I think there is enough in the episodes that we just watched that, to me, indicate that he should just play still.
Would they let him still play, though? See, that's my concern, because he's there as a piano accompaniment to a violinist. Literally, he's only there under her name.
With Kaori's responses to everything so far, and what she's been teaching Kousei, do you think it matters?
Not to Kaori, but for me, the viewer. So remember, the world revolves around me. How does it affect me?
You get to watch a really good anime.
It's pretty good. I'm really enjoying this one.
Yeah, that's kind of the big points. I think any of these options are big. Can go either way with the next episode. I know as I was watching this, I'm like, oh, I really wish we decided to do double this week.
The thing is, like, I know for a fact that watching the next 3 episodes, especially like our timing was perfect, and especially choosing 3 episodes at a time. It would have we would have had to do the watch, then record 3, and then watch 3, record 3.
Yeah.
We couldn't watch 3 and then couldn't watch 6 and then
Yeah.
record 2. It just
Yeah.
because I feel like it would have completely changed my perspective on definitely 12, maybe 10.
Mhm.
I think 11 and the beginning of 12 is probably solid exactly how it is.
Yeah, I think because I'm pretty sure 11 was where we started getting the changes, like the opening ending changes and such. So yeah, I agree with that. That's probably why that episode in and of itself wouldn't really be affected either way.
Changes?
Um,
Changes. I watched you change into a fly. I looked away. You were on fire. It's you mentioned this last recording and it's gotta be it's so true and it's getting worse. I
Yep.
am singing more and more on each episode.
Yep. What some would call singing. No.
Oh. Well, with that, this has been the end of the Beardy and the Beast podcast forever. Make sure to thumbs down and unsubscribe. No, don't do that, actually. Give us a like and subscribe. I'm not going anywhere.
I think in these couple episodes, there's kind of a lot of. Like I said, those were the big parts that we talked about. I think there's a lot of small things that were happening too that should probably be mentioning. So one of the things that I noticed, especially since you pointed out, so I've definitely been paying a lot more attention to it as well, was Kaori's eye color was constantly getting bluer throughout, especially through episode 11.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed like three times, like, nope, they went from that steel gray to there's that little bit of blue to nope, you're almost at that vibrant blue again. Near the end.
It could represent an emotional state, a connection, but it also could rather creepily also be like a medication thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, like just what they do with eyes in this show altogether.
I think it's definitely worth noting how Kousei dealt with his losing of the tournament compared to Sabaki and Watari, where he was the only one that actually seemed genuinely okay with it.
I mean, they did expand upon that in the running scene, though.
Mm-hmm.
So he did, like, to get meta on his response. It's quite clear that he understands that it's part of the journey that he's actively on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And not every step is going to be at full gait. You're going to stumble sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But when he started running alongside that train and screaming, like, there was an expression of dissatisfaction there. There was a bit of him confronting his failure,
Yeah.
but there was also success in it too. So it was definitely a mixed emotional state there. But the big thing is he didn't cry.
Yeah, it's
the only difference, and not that it matters if someone cries or not. It's neither here nor there.
It's not the bittersweetness of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the he didn't have the devastation that we saw with the other two. I think is more where I'm going with that. So when I say he was fine with it. He was emotionally stable around it. Doesn't mean it wasn't.
Well,
And the fact that he stayed around to actually see the posting.
Well, here's the thing, and here's the reason why we're both correct. So Watery and Tsubaki's journey, referenced in their sports failures, was actually they were at the end of their junior high journey, and they came up short. Kousei is starting his journey. It's not bound by his school attendance, right? It's something outside of that. This wasn't the big competition for him. This wasn't the final one to show what he's got. This was him to develop himself.
Yes.
So he was sad and dissatisfied with his performance, as anyone would be, but it doesn't have that same devastation simply because you didn't work all that only to fail in the end.
Yeah. And I mean, arguably, I'm not sure he necessarily knows it yet, because I don't think they said. Oh no, they did. He succeeded in his goal.
Yes.
It's just his goal was framed different. I think where I'm trying to go with it is I think us seeing Tsubaki and Watery's journey where they were at. We can also throw in Aiza and Igawa into it as well. Right, we're seeing where their journey is at, and really helps punctuate that he is on a different journey right now.
Even though like Aiza and Igawa are somewhere in the midway point.
Yeah.
One thing that I was super impressed with that they did, it was quite clear that Aiza and Igawa were going to get placed. But they pointedly made sure to express the surprise in that one young girl's voice. It's like, oh my god, I made the finals.
Yes.
Literally last on the list, had Kousei performed to his skills, she would have been knocked out completely, and she would have been so bitter like everyone else, right?
Yeah. It was great seeing just that a range of emotions around everyone there. Being that, oh, I scraped by, or no, it was my last chance, and just kind of the reactions that like the Gawa and Takashi had to the fact that stayed to see the results, and especially important with Takashi, where we see him looking at a hero, a superhero character. Like he had an emotional roller coaster in that episode, right? Going, oh god, why was this my hero? And then Kousei again talking about where he was in his journey, and all of a sudden he's like, there goes my hero.
That's where Messi goes.
It shows the difference where they are in their journeys, and it's it's just really great framing around it with how they've done it over these last few months. And then of course being punctuated again with Kaori and him being invited to the gala. There's a lot there, and clearly the emotions are being they're being heard.
Well, it's nice to also see, like, my final kind of point here. It's nice to see Kousei actually involving himself in the music world.
Yes.
Because he was the prodigy, not Twisted Firestarter. He was people looked up to him, people were moved by him, people started playing because of him.
Mhm.
But he wasn't part of the music scene or the music environment. He just played because he was good at it, because he was being pushed by his mom to do it, to save his mom in some misguided effort.
Mhm.
Oh! That reminds me of the actual last thing.
Okay.
It's difficult because, like, you've seen this and I haven't, so, like, it's
Yeah.
difficult for me to ask you a question. Because sometimes, like, when we did Eve no Jika and I would ask you questions, we would essentially interview each other's perspectives.
Yeah.
Which was a fun dynamic, but it was suggested that by Kaori's parents that they used to watch him all the time and brought Kaori. So what effect did child Kousei have on Kaori?
That's a good question.
That I will apparently need to watch the episodes coming up regarding.
Yep, that is a very good question, Drew. This is something that I am glad you're asking, and I'm not going to say a damn word.
Oh. Actually, that gives me hope. It means that they actually explain that instead of leave it as a loose line.
So,
you don't need to hint around it. We can just end it there.
Like a lot of the episodes that we've recorded, so every single one, there has been a lot of things that I've noticed that is I don't want to point out because I think it will a lot of them I think will spoil things in a way.
You know what, I might, because I think the last episode of this is a single plus a wrap up, isn't it?
Yeah.
I might have to watch the whole series again. Up to that last episode. Before the wrap up. I'll talk to you off stream to see if you think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Because there's definitely a lot of things there. Like I'd say probably about a third of my notes are things that I can't talk about.
Oh.
So I will say this: some things get recontextualized. That I think will help answer your questions.
Okay.
You just gotta wait for it.
She was a ghost the whole time.
Yes. Because clearly there's psychics in this world.
Hey, I see what you did there. No wonder her name is Tam Kaori.
So the only other point that I have then is I like the fact that Kousei answered Kaori straight up when she asked, "Who'd you play for?" I think that's an important growth piece from Kousei.
Agreed.
Yeah. Any other questions that I can't answer?
Not at this time.
So what you're saying is we'll just have to come around next episode to see what questions I can't answer. Find out next time on Your Lie in April.
Will Kousei learn his piano ninjutsu technique? Will he defeat the final boss? I can't wait until they all have to team up as musicians against the evil German harp player at the end.
Yes, clearly it needs to be done. And
that's in the OAV. All right.
all right.
Fiend.